One of the things that the system of white supremacy has always needed is the control of the narrative. And because of the rise of foundational Black Americans accepting and taking our power, they no longer have that. And they're panicking and scratching and clawing and reaching, desperately trying to get it back.
The price of freedom is death. We're coming to get our check.
Welcome, family, to the Afro YouTube channel. I appreciate every single last one of you all for being with us this evening. Okay, thank you all. Thank you. All right, starting off late, I got some statistics and stuff like that I had to pull up, so I had to make sure everything is orderly. All right, so it takes time. You know what I'm saying? It takes time. Slow roasting things is sometimes necessary, but we got to do it. It has to be done. It has to be done. Okay, sometimes you don't want to rush the process. You want a fully cooked meal. It tastes better that way. So that's what we do here. So I want to thank you all again, and make sure that you guys, as you guys are coming in, that you guys hit that like button, subscribe button, share button, all of that good stuff, all of it. Hit it all. Right. So we're gonna get started talking about the situation. Now I'm gonna talk about this, and this is something that I've been kind of meaning to discuss for really the last couple of weeks, but as you have seen, there's been some other incidents that has taken precedent. But now I think that all of these things line up, all of these things sync up and line together, because they've been trying to control the narrative. They've been trying to skew the narrative. That's a very important aspect of the power of the system of white supremacy. The power of the system of white supremacy ultimately relies, because it's a system of a hierarchy, which means it's a system of control. A hierarchy literally means that the few people who have the power are at the top, and that the majority of the people who are being subjugated are at the bottom. So in order for that system to exist, that has to have an element of cooperation. And in order for that cooperation to really exist, that has to have an element of manipulation and narrative control by the top. That's the only way it works. Okay. And that's the way it's worked throughout history. Throughout history. That's the only way it's ever worked throughout history. Okay. So they've always liked to use, different statistics and things like that to say, Black people were inherently criminal and stuff like that. You can even look at Birth of a Nation, the first technical movie that's been played in this country, if we're going to be honest. And this is a way of controlling the narrative. All of these things are done to control the narrative. And this is their justification for doing what they're doing, because they have to have some type of rationale. They have to have some type of justification for it. And that way they can have compliance among other societies, so they don't seem like the villains and oppressors. And also they can subliminally, this is the most important part, they can subliminally have compliance among the oppressed, to say, well, you know what, you guys, this kind of is what you guys deserve. You guys kind of do deserve this stuff. I mean, you guys have your crime. It's just kind of out of control. I have this one article I want to pull up real quick, where when we discuss crime, and we're going to discuss a lot, but when we discuss crime, it's always, well, I mean, let's be honest, crime is just so out of control. You need, and they like to frame the white authority as kind of like the father figure to step in and to solve the problem. You need somebody. It's just too much for you. You need somebody to kind of really step in and kind of really fix Chicago, fix the Black community. It's just so it's absolutely so much you guys can't do it by yourself. You're not smart enough. You don't have the brain power. Like, they say stuff like that, right? Okay, let me pull it. There's a couple of ads on this thing, so we're going to close those ads off. But I'm going to look at this situation. I'm going to pull this up. As it's loading, I would greatly appreciate you guys hitting that like button. That's what I would greatly appreciate y'all doing, hitting that. Okay. So this article, and I'm not gonna play because I hate these ads because the ads will just keep popping up. The ads will just come indefinitely. Trust me. I know this website. Okay. But it talks about how black communities stand to benefit from Trump's crime crackdown. So Donald Trump is doing it for us and how we stand to benefit from that. Okay. All right. So we're just going to look into a little bit of this because we got some things, some videos, and I don't want to take too long. I kind of want to really get to that, but I want to prime the pump. Like I said, we're slow roasting tonight. We don't need to rush everything. Sometimes y'all know we foundational Black Americans. Sometimes we already know. Sometimes the dinner, the roast takes a good time to cook. Okay. Boy, I see one of my old ops in the channel. Hey, make sure you subscribe, man. It says, in the aftermath of the fatal stabbing of 23-year-old Iran, the Ukrainian woman, all right? I'm not disrespecting her name, so I'm not going to mispronounce it. On the Charlotte light rail train, President Donald Trump's law and order agenda is once again at the center of America's debate over the intersection of urban crime and race. Okay, so that's what they're talking about, the situation. It says the killing of the Ukrainian refugee who had fled from war is by a homeless black man with schizophrenia, a longtime criminal record, who has a longtime criminal record, ignited a litany of political hot takes, social media outrage, and renewed discussion about how Trump's tough on crime approach, widely condemned as punitive by liberals, might actually have be welcome in some communities most affected. Okay, so they're saying our crime is out of control because of this situation. It's just so bad we might need Donald Trump because we got schizophrenia, we got homeless men with schizophrenia out here, and it's just too much. It says last week, before the assassination of Charlie Kirk, submerged national news coverage is so much. It says surveillance footage of an unprovoked attack of the Ukrainian woman spread widely on social media and eventually the national media. Billionaire Elon Musk, known for wading into controversies involving race and crime, and White House deputy chief of staff Stephen Miller reported details of the incident, accusing mainstream media outlets of ignoring the story. Okay. So all of this, and then they're going to say about how it goes down to say that this stuff happens in the black community. So we're going to go down because I want to get to how this happens in the black community. Okay, so we're going to get down right here. Really right here. Okay. The stabbing has since become a flashpoint for Trump's border campaign to federalize and the crackdown. Looking. And it says he claims it's aimed to protecting communities most affected by violence, particularly Black Americans. Trump and his supporters argue that a robust crackdown would benefit Black communities by reducing violent crime that disproportionately affects many predominantly Black communities. Okay, so all of this stuff, they like to say things that this type of stuff, Trump needs to jump in. What just happened? Come on now, would y'all? Okay, StreamYard, y'all just don't ever do right, man. Okay, Lord. Anyway, okay, I'm back. Anyway. So why does StreamYard do that? Okay, StreamYard be doing something different today. Okay. We're gonna work through it. So that's the thing. Trump, you need this. And when you look at the situation, and we're gonna play a clip in a very short minute, but when you look at the situation, and I look at this image, this is a still image. There's no blood. There's no nothing like that on this image. Nothing like that that would be deemed inappropriate. Okay, nothing, because I don't play anything that would be deemed inappropriate. Okay. But when I look at this is after the alleged stabbing, right? I don't see a lot of, now, allegedly she was stabbed several times in the neck. That's what they said. She was stabbed several times in the neck. And then she's grabbing her phone and she's looking up in horror. There's no blood like leaking from her neck. You can see her neck and you don't see the blood from her neck. Actually, at all. You never see the blood from her neck. You see blood when she drops down out of frame. And I'm not saying anything. I'm just letting you know what the video shows. I'm describing the video because I'm not going to play the video. I'm not saying anything. Okay. So for the people who are all like, what are you trying to imply? I'm not implying anything. I'm just saying that you can clearly see this is somebody who was stabbed. She didn't scream. She didn't ask for help. She didn't call for help. She didn't say anything. And then she just drops down into a puddle of blood. I'm not implying anything. I'm just giving you guys the description of the video. I'm explaining what happened in the video because I'm not going to play the video. Okay. And they need this because the whole situation with black crime is black crime, black crime, black crime. You know, the whole narrative of you guys are 13% of the population, but you commit 50% of the crime. And that's dangerous. That's crazy. You guys are crazy. You guys need to be handled. All right. They get all of that from this right here. They get that from the 2019 FBI data statistics. All right. Where all of this stuff, very, very, very important, is voluntary. We're going to show you that. Now, when they look at the crime, they list them down by, of course, the most violent crime, and then they go down to things that are non-violent. So in the first 4 categories right here, you have a bunch of different violent crime. All right. And let me see something. I don't like the way they StreamYard has switched this. Okay. So you have, of course, you're going to have murder and manslaughter. Then you're going to have, I'm going to say sexual assault. You guys see the word. Then you're going to have robbery and aggravated assault. These are the 4 categories that violent crime is in. Okay. Burglary can turn violent, but burglary in and of itself is not considered a violent crime. All right. So what they do is they looked at that single table. Okay. This is considered a FBI table. They looked at that table and they said, well, if you look at the murder, which is highlighted in the red, and then you look at the black, let me move my logo out the way so you guys can see more clearly. Over here, where they go into the race, they go into the percentage of people who are arrested for that incident. Okay, so when it comes to the percentage of the people who are arrested for murder in the year of 2019, you will see that 51.2% are arrested for charges of murder and manslaughter or manslaughter in 2019. And then in the white category, you see 45%. So they was all like, well, 13% of the crime, 50% of the murder. And then they said, you know what? I think we can do a little bit better than that. So how about we say 13% of the population, and then we'll say 50%, they still use the same 50% of all violent crime. So they're going to put, now they're, instead of just saying murder, they're going to put all violent crime into the category. And then they're going to say the same 15%. Okay, 50%. Now, when you actually count violent crime all together, when you do a comparison, you can count all violent crime together and all of the arrests made for violent crime in the percentage, if we just count the percentage, all right? Now, black people, and this is just based off of the arrest, you can see we have a slight lead. We have a slight lead in the arrest for murder, which would be the 51%. We see that. We know that about the 51%. And then you have the 26%, 0.7, and then the 50, and then that's robbery, and then the aggravated assault. All of that equals up to, when it comes to the percentage of arrests for all violent offenses, okay, in the year of 2019, that is 100. That's 163. That's 163.8. Okay. Now, when you do the same thing for the dominant society and you count everything up, that is 222.1. So when you count up the numbers accurately, they have committed, and that's just 1 year alone, they've committed more violent acts in that 1 year alone. And you also have to add this very, very, very important factor. This factor is almost more important than all of the other factors really combined. This factor right here, the factor that Uniform Crime Reporting, they call it UCR. It's a program, all right? This is a voluntary program where other departments and other agencies voluntarily give their arrest records to the federal investigation, to the FBI. So that means that all arrests made in the United States are not reported to the FBI and are not in the FBI table. The FBI have confirmed this multiple times. All of this stuff is voluntary. Okay, so agencies can submit data directly or through state UCR programs. So they can directly say it, especially if it's a big heinous incident, if it's a crime or whatever the case is, if it's something like that, then, they can say that, or they can submit it. But either way, it's voluntary. And the thing is that now we know that. So now the narrative of the 13-15%, if you notice, you don't really hear that being taken so serious anymore. Now, when you hear the whole 13% of the population, 50% of the crime, you really hear trolls say that. For the very, very most part, you really hear trolls say that. You don't really hear that being taken very seriously anymore. In serious debate, you don't hear people really seriously, well, 13, not seriously, because anybody who actually knows what I just expressed to you all, they know how to debunk that, and that whole argument flies out the window, especially when you couple it with the fact that that same year, when you look at the hate crime statistics, this is the same year, all of this is 2019, it says the most common demographic of hate crime participators, okay, perpetrators, okay, individuals, okay, the people who commit it in the U.S. are white individuals, okay, they're white against black people. So the narrative of all this whole hunting and this purge of the white community done by black people is completely unsubstantiated and been debunked. So with that narrative, you really don't have anything to say that black people are these criminal people, because they've been riding on that 13% of the population, 50% of the crime. They've been riding on that since 2019. But now enough of the population knows that that's completely inaccurate, and that's been too debunked by now. It's been debunked all over YouTube. It's been debunked all over TikTok. It's been debunked all over Twitter and Instagram. It's been debunked. So now that's not being taken serious. So now, like I said, there's a battle to control the narrative. Huge battle to control the narrative. So they need another big incident to say, look at the blacks, guys. Look at the blacks. But right now, they don't have, in America, they don't have a big drug epidemic in our community. Now, mind you, there is a drug epidemic, but the drug epidemic is not in our community. So they don't want to use the drug epidemic thing. They don't want to use that because that's not going to make them look good. So I'm not saying anything is true or not true. I'm not saying anything's true or not true. But then this random incident just kind of comes up. And then you have this random incident just kind of comes up, and it kind of feeds the fire that they've been trying to start for the longest time, that black people are out here and they're just out of control and the crime is just out of control and that we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's just at any moment you can be randomly attacked. We don't know. It's just and we're out here being victims to the black people. Okay. So before we get into that, I'm going to play some clips. We're going to have to play some clips. Before we play these clips, what we need to do is we need to play the copyright disclaimer to establish to YouTube that everything we play thus forth is protected under the guise of fair use. As we're gone, what I would greatly appreciate every single last one of you all to do is hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, double check, make sure that you guys are subscribed. Y'all can converse in the chat room. We'll be right back. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. So you had none other than Steven Crowder. Steven Crowder had a lot to say. About this situation. So we're going to play some of what he had to say about it.
She knows consciously or not, somewhere in the back of her mind knows she's about to die. Too. And I said, I hope at second 15 everyone springs into action. But at first glance, the response on that train car does not seem commensurate with that level of a nightmare that she is living through. And it's very obvious that there are some people sitting there with no concern whatsoever. Not everybody. It looks like the one lady is scared, and I understand that. What's she going to do? It looks like one man is kind of stepping in after. It doesn't seem like anyone is all that surprised. I know, assuming again that I, in that moment, if I was aware that someone had been stabbed or a man just violently assaulted a woman sitting in front of her, I know the shock I'd be experiencing and my reaction. And I feel pretty confident I could say the shock and alarm of my father, of my best friends, of people like Gerald, Josh, Tim. And I think I'd like to think they'd do something about it. I'd like to think that I would. What I see there is a community.
Now, before you get into the community thing, guys, I'm not saying it's sad. It didn't happen. But if you're on a train and someone was stabbed, don't you think they would be like, help, somebody stabbed me? Like, I'm just saying, for someone who literally, he hops up, you don't see no blood, you don't see nothing, you just see something, you kind of looking a little surprised, and he walks off. And she sits there. And then she lays there, and people send up and looking confused. Nobody's looking like, oh, damn. I mean, we see people get stabbed in the, they're stabbed several times in the neck, all the time. We see it all the time. No, but, nobody said anything. How am I supposed to know? She didn't scream. Okay. She didn't. First off, if somebody tried to come and snatch her phone, and I'm not saying it didn't happen. But what I'm saying is that if a stranger reached over and tried to grab her phone, she would be hollering, hooping and hollering and screaming, help, somebody trying to steal my phone, somebody's trying to rob me. She would be screaming that someone was stealing her phone. I'm saying. But somebody reached over and they're sitting up there shaking, and there's not one time, okay? There's no hold. It's not like she couldn't say anything. There's no holding the neck. Like, okay. Okay. So, yeah, maybe people just didn't know what happened at the time. Okay. She was holding her phone while she was okay. All right. But let's get into what he has to say, how he condemns our community for this.
Of people, microcosm of it, that have become accustomed to this to whatever degree. And I'm just hoping and praying, not accepting of it. So I don't have all of the details. Yeah. But I tell you what, you'll be able to tell if it's a community that's accepting of it by what happens now. By what happens now. Is this community, and let's be real here, the Black community, I don't mean Charlotte, I don't mean train riders, the Black community, everyone on that subway with the exception of Zerutskas appears to be Black. Is that community going forward? Is the discussion going to center around outrage and doing something to prevent this from ever happening again and protecting the innocent so that no one else has to go through that, like Zarutska, no one else has to witness that, and most importantly, duty? Is it going to center around duty? Duty as a society to protect those who are innocent, and duty as an individual to step in and do something. You know, like we've had discussions about duty.
No. Let's pause it right there. Let's pause it right there. So now, and this is why I tell you guys, all of these incidents, every single last one of these incidents get turned into, now there needs to be a big, every single time it's an incident like this, it's always, now we really need to have a bigger conversation about the Black community as a whole. We can't take this as a one-off incident. Okay, ain't no lone wolves in the Black community. Absolutely, you got to treat them like a pack. Hell no. Now we got to talk about the entire community, and now the entire community has to have a conversation about their duty and responsibility to be civilized people in society. Now that's what needs to happen. Okay. I missed the meeting where the white community were discussing their duty to be civilized people in society when these situations popped up. When these situations popped up, I missed Steven Crowder's take on his I guess, ethnic meeting, because I guess there needs to now be ethnic meetings when there's an incident. There needs to be racial meetings where if the Black community, we need to pull ourselves aside and we need to say, hey, we got to have a conversation about how we as a community need to do better. He's not a lone wolf. He's a part of the pack now. We got to have a conversation about how us as a community, we got to do better. So if we got to have a conversation about how we have to do better as a whole community, then they need to have the conversation about how they need to do better as a whole community. And I just keep missing those meetings, and I keep missing those discussions. I guess those discussions are very brief because it seems like they get nowhere. Because we have time after time after time after time, and then they'll get out in front. Okay, him, Charlie Kirk. They'll be one of the first people to be all like, "Hey, well, hold on, you can't label the whole white community like that. You can't do that. We're not all the same. He's different. I mean, he was kind of like, you know, he mental health and all that stuff. They'll say all that stuff about them. There's no pathologizing, and now this is really a reflection of Black culture. No. Y'all don't do that to white people. Oh no. With all of the stuff y'all got going on, there's no, well, you know what, really, that's a reflection of white culture. And where's the white community going to sit down at the table and talk about what they need to do better for us? Oh, yeah, y'all don't have that conversation. Oh, we're all individuals, and then race doesn't matter at that point. They will swear up and down race doesn't matter. Up until it's us. Now it's a duty that we have to have about that, or else we condone it.
Surrounding Daniel Penny, how he shouldn't have done what he had done, and it was far too common for white men to go out and play vigilante, or the conversation that we had that centered around duty of Officer Darren Wilson.
Now, what's interesting about Daniel Penny, Steven Crowder swore up and down, and he will swear even to this day, that the Daniel Penny situation had absolutely nothing to do with race, that it wasn't a racial incident. And he said that everybody who said it was race baiting and all of that stuff. All of them were saying that the Daniel Penny situation had absolutely zero to do with race whatsoever. So what are you bringing up Daniel Penny for, unless you're wanting to admit now that it did have something to do with race?
I know that people are afraid that's a third rail. No, with Mike Brown, Darren Wilson, that guy was a good cop. That guy was a cop who asked to be in an area where he could help the community. He had an easier beat. And someone reached for his gun and beat the hell out of him. And the discussion was around the duty of police officers to be more gentle and to not use lethal force. No. We'll know if this community is accepting of this heinous act of violence and evil. Let's call it what it is. If the discussion is centered around duty, not to the depraved, not to those who commit the act of evil, but duty to the innocent, white or black. Duty as an individual, duty as a society. Look, this is when people say, why is this such a big story? Because it concentrates, it distills the failures of Western civilization. And what do I mean by that? I mean that in the United States, a country founded under God and biblical principles, we have had our empathy.
A country founded under God and biblical principles. Okay.
Used against us. Where empathy, because it is an emotion.
Y'all had y'all empathy used against you. According to Charlie Kirk, he said he didn't believe in empathy. What are you talking about? Don't do that. Charlie Kirk said he didn't believe in empathy. Let's not do that now. Y'all had y'all empathy used against y'all.
Can be warped, can be perverted, and it has been made its own idol, a value to trump all other values. Mass incarceration. Well, why is it wrong? Empathy. Extended sentences. Why is it wrong? Empathy.
No, it's not wrong. It would be okay if y'all was doing it to everybody. Mass incarceration. Why is it wrong? Because y'all doing it to black people exclusively. That's what makes it wrong. Because when white people sell drugs, y'all don't throw the same amount of time towards the people who sell them or do them, even today. Okay? So that's why it's wrong. Not because of, we just felt sorry for them. So empathy, that's what makes it wrong. No, because y'all were, first off, black people didn't put the crack in the community in the first place. Okay? That's another story. But even the ones who were doing it, even the dealers who were caught, y'all were giving disproportionate sentences, and y'all still do today. So that's what makes it wrong. The racial aspect of it. Nobody is saying, and when people talk about punishment, nobody is saying that punishment is wrong. In a civilized society, there will be punishment. Okay, there is going to be consequences for people's actions. That's what happens in a civilized society. And we all know this. But the thing is that a civilized society is not going to have dual punishments depending on the race of the person. That's not what a civilized society has. Well, if you're a member of the black community, then you get 5 times as much as you would if you were doing the same crime, but if you were white. Okay, that's what makes it wrong. When people talk, well, no, we need punishment. I'm all for that. I'm all for it. Okay. But I'm just saying, let's have punishment across the board. Because if you guys were even the tough on crime, let's be tough on crime. Let's be tough. Let's be tough on crime. I'm all with it. Let's be tough on crime. But y'all don't want to be tough on crime. Y'all don't. They don't. The Steven Crowders and the alt-right and the MAGA and all that stuff, they don't want to be tough on crime. They don't want to do that. Okay, I'm more willing to do that than them because I'm saying if we're gonna be tough on crime, let's be tough on crime for everybody. Let's be tough on crime for everybody. And if we tough on crime for everybody, you're gonna get more of them. Then all of that tough on crime stuff gonna stop. Then all of that, yeah, we need to be more strict on crime. We need to be tougher on crime. All of that's gonna stop. That's gonna stop real quick with that. So they don't want to be tough on crime. That's a dog. They use that so they can say, okay, let's persecute and target and harass black people exclusively. All right. So they don't want to be tough on crime. There's nothing wrong with punishment, but it's wrong with you racializing it, which is what they do.
Bail's too expensive. Why is it wrong? Empathy. And we find ourselves at the point where that girl died alone without anyone there. You know what? Not being empathetic enough. Hey, maybe it's second 15. Everyone steps in. There would be no better, I guess I should say, not ending, but following information that could leak out. In this scenario, there's no good option. But there would be no better scenario than for us to see second 15, 16, everyone step in, and another guy get out and blow that motherfucker away. Right? Blow that motherfucker away, that piece of human shit, and stand before a judge who says, thanks for blowing that motherfucker away. I can't believe we found ourselves here. That's the only acceptable option, starting at second 15. Now, what I think is most likely, and I pray to God, I mean that I pray to God we don't see happen, is a discussion centered around empathy and mental health, or potentially how the system failed that man who committed some kind of a criminal act at least 14 times, many of them violent. If that happens, that tells you that you have a society that is not only desensitized, but a community that is accepting of it, depending on the race of the victim. How about we start talking about it honestly? Now, is that likely to happen to you? No, statistically. It's a lot more likely if you're on public transit. Don't do that. It's a lot more likely if you're in a public school. Don't do that. Is it likely to happen to you? No. But it's 12 times more likely to happen to you if you're a white person from a black perpetrator than it is if you're a black person from a white guy.
That's another lie that they've been trying to say that black people are 12 times, and they've been really coming up with this, and they've been really saying this after the situation with Carmelo Anthony, that, you know, black people are 12 times more likely to kill a white person than white people are to black people, even though there's no statistic that bears that to be the reality. There's absolutely no statistic that bears that to be the reality. When you actually look, because the closest thing you'll have to that is really the FBI hate crime statistics, which is what we have right here. And when you look at the victims of that, all of these things are racially based. Most of them, over half of them, are that. And then based off of the people who've been targeted the most, you can see it's clearly anti-black. Most of these are based off of the hate crimes, according to the FBI, over half are anti-black. Then they say anti-Jewish, anti-gay. I don't know what anti-gay and / male, anti-gay male, anti-white at the bottom, and then anti-Hispanic, Latino. All right. So now this unsubstantiated lie. It's just a flat out lie that you're more likely to be harmed by a black person than you would being a black person by a white person. All right. Even though white people and black people don't live around the same communities or anything of the sort, but that's the lie that they're telling.
12 times. So don't use our empathy against us. Hey, we're all one race. We are the world. Hold hands. Human race. Great. 12 times? 12 fucking times? Is that rare? Yeah, it's a whole lot more common than it should be. And what really bothers people is the discussion that often starts happening at second 15 and for years afterward about how, gee, that guy had some tough breaks. Maybe he did. Not as tough as hers. What do you want to build a system around? We talk about systemic discrimination. Hey, is it systemic discrimination when you have a community of people 12 times more likely to commit a murder than the next group of people, 12 times more likely, and someone who is in that community of people has committed a crime and acts of violence, not one, but 14 times, and was deemed so unfit mentally to stand trial that he wrote an IOU and was let go. People often say with these, right, when there's and I don't, when there are mass shootings or acts of evil that will always occur, that's not lost on me, that you have blood on your hands. And you shouldn't be guilted by that because, hey, you didn't vote for gun-free zones where 94% of mass shootings occur. You didn't vote for there to be no armed guards. You probably don't even believe there should be a Department of Education where we see a lot of these mass shootings. But would it be appropriate to say there's blood on the hands of a judge who let a serial violent offender out on an IOU and deemed him unfit to stand trial because he was dangerous enough, nuts enough, that, oh, wait, we should put him on a public train car? Would it be fair to say that that judge has blood on her hands? And would it be fair to say that anyone who has voted for this systemic evil rot that has led us to the place where we are maybe has some blood on your hands? You want to play that game? If it saves one life, let me let you in a little secret. There are 400-something million guns in this country. If you waved a magic wand and voted tomorrow and could make it possible where no one could purchase another firearm or a round legally here in the United States, you would not be able to discern the difference in violence. Just as surely, if we didn't have that shitty and evil of a judge and a system that allows it, Cyrus could still be alive. What kind of policy do we want to craft? And what kind of discussion do we want to have? And how about we get back? I talk about, people often say, well, we can't, we don't want to go back. We're never going back. Go back. Let's go back. Progress. Progress for the sake of what? Does this look like progress? Does this look like progress? You go the wrong way. If you find yourself lost, do you just keep progressing forward, or do you backtrack your steps and find out where you went wrong? That look to you like we've gone wrong? Does to me.
But does it to me, though? Does it to me? Of course, anybody losing their life, of course, her losing her life was tragic. And nobody's saying that her losing her life was not tragic. But people are kind of asking necessary questions about her losing her life. And the matter of what happened, people don't know a lot of people ain't really doing that. Now, you had a whole bunch of the alt-right, and they were hooping and hollering and screaming and yelling and all of that stuff. Oh my God, this Ukrainian girl. And this was their opportunity, because the 13%, 50% of the crime, the 13, 15 thing that they keep trying to do, that stuff didn't go anywhere. It didn't go anywhere. So it's stopped. We've stopped that. Okay. I stopped that. Y'all stopped that. We stopped that together. That's been stopped. That's over with now. Now you don't see them saying that unless they're trying to trigger somebody, some troll online. 13%, but 50% of like they try to troll. It's not even that big of a deal anymore. Now they need something, because they can't use that 13, 15% thing anymore. So they need something now. So now they use this the Ivanka girl. Oh my God, the little girl, and she's on the train. She left Pizza Hut, and oh my God. Now they're saying that, and I'm not saying it's not tragic, but I'm saying that it really didn't take off. It really didn't take off. And the right was, oh my God, this is evil. But it really just didn't take off. And one of the main reasons why it did not take off, we just got to say it. One of the main reasons why it didn't take off is because the whole media campaign was abruptly interrupted. It was abruptly interrupted. All right. It was breaking news that came right after that. And then it was all like, okay, well, now our priority is on something completely different. See, what happened with Charlie Kirk, and they were trying to get the ball rolling to demonize the black community. They were on their way doing that. They were trying to get that ball rolling. But the thing is that it got abruptly interrupted. Charlie Kirk was trying to spin the whole thing with Ivanka and all of that. But yeah. It got interrupted way too quick. Way too quick. Let me see if I can find where even he said something about it. Hold on. There's been just so much. There's been so much in the last few days. Okay. Lord. Okay. Here's what I want to say. Yep. Oh. Now this is it. I want to play this clip. Since we're talking about Charlie, I want to play this clip of Charlie.
White girl. Secondly, Van Jones,
okay,
he puts race in almost every situation where it doesn't exist. For example, with the death of George Floyd, Van Jones repeatedly said...
Okay, hold on. Pull this clip up. I had to look it up, y'all. My fault. I had to look this up.
That was a racist attack. You know who didn't say that? Well, first of all, as you aptly noted, that in the video, it's pretty clear that the attacker said, quote, that white girl. Secondly, Van Jones, he puts race in almost every situation.
The attacker said that white girl. So he just, now mind you, he has no relation to this girl, the attacker, and this woman. Have never met each other, have no relation, have no issue or anything like that. And she's on the train, and he walks on the train, sits behind her, and then jumps up and then stabs her multiple times in the neck, allegedly, and then says, oh, that white girl, and then bam, and then just stabs her and then kind of just calmly walks off. Okay, yeah, all right. Boy, they want you to believe anything nowadays.
Pretty clear that the attacker said, quote, that white girl. Secondly, Van Jones, he puts race in almost every situation where it doesn't exist. For example, with the death of George Floyd, Van Jones repeatedly said that was a racist attack. You know who didn't say that? Keith Ellison, who is the Attorney General of Minnesota at the time, said that race did not play any role in the actions that happened with George Floyd's death. But even beyond that, and I think...
Oh, well, okay. Let's say if race didn't play if it didn't play any factor in George Floyd, are we positive race played a factor in this situation? Are we sure of that? Because anytime it's a white victim, they will say it's 100% without question a racial incident, and without question the motive was racial. Okay, and it wouldn't have happened if the person wasn't white, and white people are just being persecuted and hunted in this country. That's what they'll say. But then when the victim is black, well, we don't really want to jump to conclusions about why it happened. I don't even think it's about race. It's probably not about race. It's really never ever about race. Notice how they spin that narrative, and they're losing that narrative. They're losing the ability to spin that narrative because it's so biased, okay? And it's exposed. So the narrative in Charlie Kirk and Steven Crowder and all of them, they were trying to spin this narrative that the white community was under siege from some deranged black people, but they've tried and they couldn't spin the narrative. They lost control of it.
This is what's very important, is that we are living in a mental model and a framing post 2020. The 2020 model is that the worst thing that could possibly happen is racial attacks. Remember, even before that, Jussie Smollett or the FBI being mobilized for even the slightest whisper of a hate crime. But now, all of a sudden, when we make the left live up to their own standard of rules, there is complete silence by the entire American media. And then Van Jones goes on television and calls me a race hustler for even calling out the facts and the specifics around this case. Now, this was quite interesting because why is it the media was so quiet on this? You got to wonder, Will, because if the roles were reversed, and I tweeted this out, and I will stand by it. If a white attacker was minding his own business and a perfectly law-abiding black individual was minding her own business, and that white attacker took out a knife and was relentlessly hacking a law-abiding black girl, you and I both know, Will, this would be national headlines, and there'd be more than 0 headlines, as you pointed out on your show yesterday. And so Van Jones, he wants to keep on trying to find racial motives that don't exist, and he ignores them when they're in broad daylight in front of him.
Now, here's the thing. That's not a racial motive, though. That's not a racial motive. Because if it happened the other way around, and it actually does happen the other way around multiple times throughout this year and throughout many other years, it happens all of the time. It would have been Charlie Kirk, Steven Crowder, all of them. They would have been saying, well, hold on. How do we know it's about race? You can't jump to that conclusion. We don't know it's about race. He didn't say he did it because she was black. So how do you know it's about race? You don't know that. You're a race hustler. You're just assuming things. That's exactly what Charlie Kirk, Steven Crowder, that's exactly what they would have done if the races were reversed, because that's what they always do. Anytime it's a black victim, they will jump on the front lines to say, hey, and race ain't got nothing to do with it. Okay, the perpetrator was colorblind, had no idea that the person was black. That's the first thing that they do.
On recorded video and a horrendous attack such as this. The media doesn't care about this, and we should start asking why.
Oh, yep. Trying to spin the whole thing about, well, the black community and black communities hunting the white community. Remember with the situation with the Russians, and they tried to spin that, but that thing, the problem with them being able to spin the situation with the Russian attack is because we saw the video before. We saw the video before the actual incident, and we saw who started the incident. So we know for a fact that it was the Russians who started that incident. All right. But Charlie Kirk was going on talking about he felt like there needed to be a hate crime for white people.
I'm not the vice president of the United States, nor do I plan to be. And by the way, praise God for the moral clarity and hopefully the 48th president of the United States, J.D. Vance. But I'm going to go a step further. Federal hate crime arrests. Arrest these blacks for going after whites, if the facts bear it out. But it turns out, based on all, quote, overheard making racial comments escalating the situation further. So therefore, there's witnesses that may say, hey, let's go after Whitey. Let's go after the white guy. We already know that there is a deliberate plan on white people in this country.
Okay. These were the things. These were the things he was saying. Okay. If only he knew who was really coming after him. Not to mock his death, but if only he knew who his true enemy really was. He might still be here. But they lost control of that narrative, man. The narrative is gone. It's gone. Now, after his death, and the thing is that they were building up, and then bam, this happens. Bam. And then they were all like, oh, we don't know the guy. Who the guy might be, he might not be white, but bam, then they're found. Oh my God. Throws the narrative off. They are in a tailspin. They don't know what to do about this narrative. They don't know what to do. All right. And they're desperately trying to maintain some type of control of this narrative. Desperately trying to do that. J.D. Vance did an interview with Jesse Matter. That's his name, Jesse Matter. And about the situation involving Charlie Kirk. And we're going to talk about it.
Charlie's killing.
It's disgusting.
They're saying he deserved to die. How do you wrap your Charlie's killing?
It's disgusting.
They're saying he deserved to die. How do you wrap your head around that?
Well, one way you wrap your head around it is disgusting evil. What kind of person looks at a grieving young mother, at two beautiful young kids, and feels a certain sense of celebration? And I actually think, I don't know if it's a couple people, I don't know if it's thousands of people, but I would ask you, if you were the kind of person who feels joy at the death of a grieving mother and grieving children, what bad decisions have led you to where you are today? And why don't you get back on the right path? I really believe that there are people who recognize that the joy that they're feeling, the celebration they're feeling at Charlie's death, is evidence of evil within them, and they have to extinguish that evil. I think that. And I've even seen some social media posts where people have said, you know, I was feeling kind of good about this guy dying, and now I realize that meant there was something wrong in me. That's another way I think that God is speaking to people through Charlie's death, is these incredibly evil people celebrating it. We're seeing it. We're seeing that evil in the public eye for all to see. But I also think people are turning away from that evil because they recognize that it is so opposite of everything good and true and righteous in the world.
If these evil people don't repent and continue to revel in the murder, what should be the consequence?
What type of question is that? If these evil people don't repent and continue to revel in the murder, what should be the consequence? Hold on, what type of question is that? Why would you even, what do you think he should do? What should be the consequence? If these quote unquote evil people, and evil by y'all definition, because y'all are saying that this was a great godly man. So this is y'all definition of the word evil. Okay. So why would you even ask what should be the consequence? Nobody's doing anything illegal. Okay. This is a literal, he's elected official. He's elected because of Donald Trump. Okay. He's an elected official. He's a vice president. He can only do out consequences, not based off of what he feels is quote unquote evil. Consequences need to come from what is against the law. If technically, and I'm not, because we don't relish in the death of Charlie Kirk. But the thing is that yes or no, is that against the law? These are the same people who be all like, well, free speech, now come on, free speech. Now y'all were the people who are championing and advocating for free speech. Now y'all saying what should be the consequences for reveling, even if Charlie was a great man, there should be consequences for that. Well, Dr. King was a great man, was he not? Did Charlie Kirk not demonize Dr. King publicly on multiple occasions? Let's be honest. So where's the standard then? So are we going to say now all people that we deem as good in society, there needs to be now punishment for? Is that the type of society we want to live in now? Because if it's either legal or it's not legal. Now, if you want to take it away from being out of the realm of being legal, fine. Then let's take a lot of stuff out of the realm of being legal. But if you're going to say it's legal, then there should be no consequence. Unless you're going to have consequences with very other similar things. But let's listen to what J.D. Vance has to say about it.
Well, look, I think the consequence should be, by the way, justice exists for both the people who repent and ask forgiveness. Justice also exists for people who don't repent and don't ask for forgiveness. I really do hope that the person who murdered Charlie Kirk eventually accepts that what he did was evil and terrible, but we still got to have justice anyway. And I think that for the people who are celebrating Charlie Kirk, look, we have a First Amendment in this country. The First Amendment protects a lot of very ugly speech. But if you celebrate Charlie Kirk's death, you should not be protected from being fired for being a disgusting person. If you're a university professor who benefits from American tax dollars, you should not be celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. And if you are, maybe you should lose your job or your university should face a loss of funding.
Damn, okay. That's not censorship, J.D. Vance? J.D. Vance, is that not what you would consider censorship? Okay. Not only the person being fired, he's saying that the university should have a loss in funding. Now, the whole university gets to suffer because a professor demonizes Charlie Kirk or has something ill to say about Charlie Kirk. That's censorship right there. That's the same censorship that the MAGA was sitting up there talking about. No, we can't have that. The First Amendment right is our bedrock, and we can't afford to lose that. The American people rely on that. That's what makes us a country. That's what makes us a people. That's what makes us whole. That's what you guys were saying. Now you're sitting up there talking about that. Now the whole being fired, whatever, it was that part right there that you're saying that, first off, they should be fired for being a disgusting person. Well, that's a matter of opinion. That is a matter of opinion. But now you're saying that the whole universities should now lose their funding. So that means that they got to do inner policing because they're under some type of restriction. Okay, so now the administration, now they got to be on pins and needles. And they got to create some type of police state in their own university to make sure that their funding doesn't get cut from their overseer. That's what J.D. Vance just suggested.
If you are the kind of person who thinks that Charlie Kirk was justifiably murdered, sometimes the government can't do anything about that. But you know what can is civil society. And I've actually been gratified to see all these people standing up and saying, yes, we have free speech, and yes, we have free debate. But if you're celebrating the death of a young father, you ought to pay some consequences for it. And the American people are rising up against that evil. It's a
okay. Well, what was the consequences for people celebrating the death of George Floyd? I just think that the people who are saying and are suggesting, implying that there should be some consequences for celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, I think that the consequence should be equivalent to the consequences that were faced by people who celebrated the death of George Floyd and Mike Brown and Breonna Taylor and Trayvon Martin. And I can go on and on and on. I think that those people who celebrated that, now mind you, I have not seen no Charlie Kirk challenges like they had George Floyd they literally had George Floyd challenges, all right, where I challenge you, I'm gonna get down on your neck and I'm gonna act like I'm choking you and you can tell me if you breathing or not. There were George Floyd challenges, okay? There were people who were taking pictures playing dead, pretending to be Trayvon Martin. I ain't seen nobody do that of Charlie Kirk. So if you want to talk about there should be consequences from a civilized society, I'm game for that. I'm fine with that. There should be consequences. There should be consequences for people who are doing that, and the consequences should be met with a standard. And then the people who are doing the Trayvoning, the people who are doing the George Floyd challenge, they should be met with even more consequences because their offense is even greater. I'm game for that. Are y'all game for that? I think that's a good idea. I think that's a good way to handle it. Because if there's going to be censorship, I'm not tripping on that. If there's going to be censorship, then fine. Then let there be censorship, but let there be censorship across the board. Let's say, well, you know what? Mocking or minimalizing the demise of anybody deserve a level of punishment. Okay, so if we start with that standard and then the level of offense determines your level of punishment, then the level of offense, they're the ones who are going to be punished because they're the ones who make the memes, the jokes, the challenges, all of that stuff. Lie on the person's name, okay, dox the people's family. They're the ones who deserve that. I'm game for that. You want a punishment? I'm with it. I'm with it. I'm totally with that. Let's do it then. There's going to be a whole bunch of people fired. Ain't nobody going to have a job. Let me get to some of the super chats real quick. If y'all agree that punishment, if y'all agree that let's have some punishment, but let's have the punishment be across the board, put the 100 emoji in the chat room. I want to know how many people feel where I'm coming from with this. If we're going to have it, let's have it. Let's not be biased with it. Let's not be, well, Charlie Kirk he had a baby. Okay, well, he's not the only one who had a baby, and everybody else gets to be made fun of. Everybody else gets to be mocked and minimalized and then villainized. Okay, but Charlie Kirk, he has to be memorialized and damn near prophesized and deified. So no. So if y'all agree, yeah, Yeah, let's have consequences across the board. Okay, let's have a standard, and then let's apply the consequences to whoever violates the standard. Now, I'm with that. I'm with it all the way. All right, let's get to D-Dud. D-Dud says, nobody stepped in when Daniel Penny choked out Jordan Neely. Nobody stepped in. Nobody did that. Now, Steven Crowder is talking about how our community needs to be condemned, and we need to have some type of conversation of duty because we didn't step in and we didn't do enough to protect that Ukrainian girl, and nobody did anything to protect Jordan Neely. Nobody. And people saw what happened. He was laying there on the floor. People didn't even understand what was going on with the Ukrainian girl situation. Flint water, and he got a picture of Obama. That's interesting. All right. Flint water says that they are over. They are, excuse me, they are getting called out in real time. That's true. In real time. They're mad. They're mad. We are stuck. We're shuck and begging for mercy. They're mad. We are shuck and begging for mercy. Yeah. I'm saying they're mad, and we are. I'm saying they. Okay. All right. Yeah. They're pissed off. They're pissed off. It's a different time. It's a different time, and we're gonna get into it. We still got stuff to go. We're gonna get into it. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. And as we're reading the super chats, what I would appreciate y'all do is hit that like button right now. Let's hit it live. Let's hit the like button live right now. Let's do that. All right. Let's do it. Let's do it. Backup Trick says they're just mad because FBAs aren't falling for the psychological mind games anymore. Delineation is working on every level. Stay strong, FBA family. Hey, it is. All of this the mind game stuff, what Charlie Kirk, no, not Charlie Kirk, what Steven Crowder is used to is he's used to black people being afraid of general punishment. Okay, this is something that you understand if you grow up in a house with siblings. You understand how if one of your siblings running around, bam, knock a vase down or something like that, they did something they weren't supposed to be doing, whatever the case may be. And now mom, dad, pissed off, upset. They're just mad. They're not necessarily mad at you, but they're on the thin edge with everybody. They're mad at everybody. Everybody go to your room. Everybody go clean up. Everybody do now it's chores. Okay, turn TV off. Everybody now is kind of general punishment for everybody. All right, that's what they're mad at. Okay, and that's what happens if you have, trust me, because I got a bunch of siblings. Okay, you got siblings, and your siblings will do something, especially if y'all grow up in the same house around the same age. If you grow up around the same age relatively, your siblings are going to do something, or you, because a lot of y'all, let's be honest, a lot of y'all, it was y'all. Sometimes it was me. I admit it. It was me sometimes. It was me sometimes. I admit it. I get my siblings in trouble sometimes. Very few times. I was their protector, but you know what I'm saying. But sometimes it is us. And then the parent gets mad. And then what the child tends to do is they overcompensate because they already know, okay, well, the parent is already mad. So let me, before the parent turns around the corner with the belt, I'm already washing the dishes. I'm washing the dishes. I'm drying the dishes. I'm putting the dishes up. I'm sitting up there folding the laundry. I'm vacuuming the living room. I'm cleaning everything up. I'm reading. I'm doing my homework and all of that. And I'm all nice and quiet and everything is good. I'm behind the toilet in the bathroom cleaning up. So you're already going above and beyond just to prevent the backlash from the anger of your parents. And the dominant society is used to black people being like that with them. And if you guys you guys definitely need to get the ISIS papers, because Dr. Francis Cress Wilson talks about this. Okay. Kind of like the parent-child dynamic that the dominant society has formed that has now really been broken. That dynamic is now been broken now. We don't have that dynamic anymore. All right. Foundational Black Americans, we've divorced ourselves from that. So what they're used to when a black person does something, they'll have somebody be all like, man, he shouldn't have did that, and he shouldn't have did that at all. Now they all gonna be mad at us, and I don't want them to be mad at me, man, please. They're used to that. They're used to that. And they used to, now we got to do better. We got to do better because we don't want them to come over here and get us together now. We don't want them to do that. So I'm calling you out before they do, okay, to protect myself. It was almost like a way of self-protection in a way where you call out your own people so mommy and daddy don't have to come down here and start punishing folk, okay? Or at least you protect yourself by seeming like one of the good ones when the parent is upset. It's what they're used to. Now they got to get used to something different. Now they have to get used to something different because now we just don't care. Now it's not that big of a deal. Now it's like, oh, okay. I mean, it is what it is. Okay. You're upset. Stephen Curl's like, the community needs to have a responsibility towards this. They need to talk about civility. Years ago, they'd be like, yeah, we do got to talk about it, man. We don't want them to come over here and tell us. No, we don't got to talk about nothing. No, we'll talk when we want to talk, and we don't want to talk about that. They're not used to that. They're not used to this collective backbone that foundational Black Americans have. Do you guys understand that they're not used to how we're moving right now? Do you guys understand this? They're not used to that. They're not used to them saying, hey, y'all need to check yourself. And we say, no, we don't. We good. You need to check yourself. Don't look over here. Don't mind what we got going on. Okay, we straight. If some random schizophrenic homeless man goes out and commits a crime, that ain't have nothing to do with me and my community and my family. And I'm not going to sit up there and do the damn walk of shame because some homeless man did a crime. No. Because y'all not going to do that when y'all folk do nothing. So we going to keep the same energy. They're not used to that energy at all. They're used to that. Yeah, we do got to understand that we got to do better now. All of that. Notice how when we start delineating all of that, we got to do better and we got to come on now. Notice that you don't hear all that. Notice that it be your own people and we how they gonna respect everything? We can't respect ourselves. Notice that is gone. That's gone. It's not here anymore. We don't care what they think like that. We're not waiting for their approval. We understand their relationship. All of this angry parent and bad child dynamic that they're used to, where they can talk, where they can just put their hands on their hips and then give a stern look, and then we sitting up there running around the corner trying to wash dishes and be the good kids. It's over with. It's up. It's over with. They looking, we looking. We looking like what you looking at. That's not what they used to. That's not what they used to. Let me get to some of these other super chats. Okay. Sadie, she says, sends a good super chat, and she says, they don't want a middle class. They don't want that. It says, and they don't want educated people. It's either rich or poor. Yeah, that is what they want. And they're zooming in. Okay. And their God's death. Excuse me. And their God's death was the only way to strip away jobs and education from people. Yeah, for the most, they're talking about punishing people's jobs. First off, I don't think the job market right now can afford for y'all to just be mass firing people who don't like Charlie Kirk. The job market as of right now cannot really afford that. Y'all make it seem like we're doing it. No, we're not doing that good. Where y'all can just be mass firing people who don't like Charlie Kirk. Y'all can't. The American job market cannot handle that right now. It says, okay, and they definitely want FBAs out the field. They do. And let's be honest, with the people who are being fired, just like the students at the school, who do you think between black people and the white liberals are going to be the first ones with the pink slip out the door for celebrating, quote unquote, the death of Charlie Kirk? It's going to be us. All of the over punishment is going to be us. All right. My brother Flint Water again, he says, they know we don't give a damn about what they think or feel about us. It's FBA time to get ours. It's time for us to get ours. It's FBA's time for us to get ours. Okay. Portese says we are proud FBA Detroit. We are proud. Shout out to Detroit. What up, though? He says, it says we are ready to roll. It says ready for the roll call, brother. Appreciate that, brother. Appreciate that. Okay. Appreciate that. It says 5-0, get your lights on. Get your lights on tonight on. It says get your lights on, the nights on. 5-0, get your lights on, the nights on. Appreciate that. Appreciate that, family. Thank y'all very much. Let me get back to it because there's some other stuff that I want to discuss. There's some other stuff. Okay. Let me get back to it. So in the situation, then he starts making up a bunch of assumptions. Hold on. Play the thing.
Great thing to see.
So the Democrats in the media are preaching unity. They're saying there's an equal amount of violence on both sides, and we need to all just lower the temperature and come together. You say?
It's statistically absolutely bonkers. The idea that left-wing violence and right-wing violence in 2025 in America are equal, it's preposterous. The statistics don't bear it out, Jesse. You ask what percentage of political liberals believe that political violence is sometimes justified? It's about 1 in 4. If you ask young conservatives that same question, it's about 1 in 25, which, by the way, is still too high.
Right.
It should be 0, but the problem is much bigger and much more malignant on the far left. I saw something, maybe it was the ADL or one of these ridiculous organizations that said that right-wing violence is as common as left-wing violence. And then you go and look at the data. And you say, what is it that you're causing right-wing violence? One of the things that they called right-wing violence is literally a gang of black Americans beating up on a Mexican guy. Well, yeah, if you categorize everything under the sun as right-wing violence, you can make your point for you, but that's BS. Nobody's buying it. Look at the way they're celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder. Look at the way that this is sad.
Notice that too. A gang of black Americans beating up on a Mexican guy is right-wing violence. When no, we don't go around beating up on no Mexican people like that. No. Don't put us in that. No. Most of the right-wing violence comes from white people. We ain't got nothing to do with no right-wing violence. Notice that little shot that JD threw. It's a bunch of black guys beating up on a Mexican. No, okay, all right.
Assassin was radicalized by left-wing and probably trans-related stuff. Look at the way that even if you're not committing an act of violence, you are supporting those who do. You see that so much more on the far left. And I wish my friends who are on the left would just look themselves in the mirror and accept that they have a problem. Yes, absolutely. By all means, let's take down the temperature. But if you want to take down the temperature and you're on the left of center, the first and most important thing you can do is look in the mirror.
The media is now saying the assassin may have been MAGA. Why would they lie?
Well, they would lie because they can't do that simple, basic thing of looking themselves in the mirror. They can't.
It's so interesting, y'all talking about looking yourselves in the mirror. Charlie Kirk, y'all keep trying to make it seem like this person isn't a member of y'all community. He is, no matter what y'all want to say. Even if y'all want to say he's a leftist, even if y'all want to say, oh, he's been indoctrinated by leftist extremists, or he was dating a trans person, or he was interested in a trans person, or whatever the case is, whatever the case may be, he is a member of your community. And you're not going to be able to strip him from that, because y'all don't let us strip nobody from our community. It don't matter. He could be homeless. He could be schizophrenic. He could be whatever the case is. Y'all do not allow us to be stripped from anybody negative in our community. No. So we are not going to let you guys strip y'all negative people from y'all community and act like, well, that's some other or some outsider. Oh, absolutely not. No, we're not doing that. And see, Foundational Black Americans, we're playing a very different game now. Okay, we're not playing by their rules, because we see them setting the desk up and playing with the cards and cheating. We see that and we're calling that out. No, so if it's a case where we gotta, Steven Crowder and all of them, now we gotta have a whole conversation about our community and how we need to condemn this and we don't want to condone this, and we need to have a conversation about duty. If we got to have a conversation about duty because this person comes from our community, then y'all need to have a conversation about duty because that person comes from y'all community. Okay, the sexuality doesn't matter, because when a black person does a crime, y'all don't be separating them based off their sexuality. So I don't care what his sexuality or his political beliefs are. All right, because y'all didn't care about, when y'all was talking about this Ukrainian girl, what his sexuality was or what his political beliefs were. Y'all did not care. So no, if we got to accept the bad, all right, then y'all got to accept the bad. But it's not, y'all not going to be able to trim the fat when y'all want to, and then y'all give us everything that we don't want. No, we're not doing that no more. Okay, foundational Black Americans are not playing their game anymore. So absolutely not. Y'all can try to spin and spin and spin and spin and spin all y'all want to, but it ain't landing. It's not landing. And the whole situation has thrown a big monkey wrench in the narrative that you guys are desperately trying to have any type of grasp on anyway. Which leads us to the situation with Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel, who I guess still is a talk show host, his show, Jimmy Kimmel Live, has been suspended indefinitely because of comments that he's made. He's been told that he needs to make a public apology. He's been told also that he needs to make a pretty handsome donation to Turning Point USA for this joke. I'm going to play the joke right here, and I want you guys to listen to it. And we're going to see what the joke is, because a lot of people didn't even hear the joke before they heard the news about Jimmy Kimmel. So let's see what the joke exactly is. Okay.
The MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish.
Okay. That was the joke. Oh, and they didn't like that joke. They said, damn you. I was about to say Dave Chappelle. Damn you, Jimmy Kimmel, how dare you do that? And his show was removed. You had people celebrating his show. One of the people who were celebrating his show, and I thought was very interesting, not surprising, but the person who was doing it, I thought was kind of interesting that the person, after all of the talking that we've seen them do about it, was...
Now, how distasteful are you to think that this joke would land and it makes sense? Now, how distasteful are you to think that this joke would land and it makes sense, unless you vehemently hate Charlie and you hate President Trump? These leftist nut jobs have no end to the disrespect that they're willing to do. And that's why you lost your job. That's why you lost your job. To say that Donald Trump didn't care about Charlie is ridiculous. You see all the outpouring. First of all, we came on the news and said it.
You know, Don said to me, he's sort of like a son to you. Charlie got involved like 11 years ago, I think. He started, you know, he's a brilliant guy, but he didn't go to college. He actually started in college. He was so bored that he left. He would have done very well in college if he wanted to, but he was brilliant. I always said, you know, can you...
No, Trump. No, we're not gonna sanitize his college. No. No, I can't let that happen. I can't let that happen. Oh, he was a dropout, but he was only a dropout because he was so bored. He was smarter than the teacher when he went to class, and he just knew everything in college already because he was just so intelligent. He was like Tony Stark or something. And he went to class and he already knew all the subjects, and he was just sitting up there like balling up pieces of paper and throwing them in the basket, and he was just so bored he dropped out. Please, man, no. Charlie Kirk didn't drop out of college because he was bored, but he would have did well if he's stop. No. He would have done so well. He was just his genius just bored him in those remedial classes. Okay, all right.
You get a degree because you're sort of used to having people like you went to college, right? Yeah. But he just didn't have the patience to do it. And he started this really during what would normally be college, maybe even sooner than that, but what would normally be, in this case, older than the people in Arizona, to killing them because he believed it.
The entire country.
He wanted to help young people. And he didn't deserve this. He was truly a good person.
Half-staff flags for the entire country. The motorcade and the support that Donald Trump, he's going to Charlie Kirk's funeral. He sent J.D. Vance to carry the casket. I mean, he's trying to put Charlie Kirk's casket in the rotunda. I mean, you name it, Donald Trump has done it. And it makes sense for a person who's grieving to try to divert the conversation because he don't want to get into a deep dive talking about Charlie Kirk, which would probably make him cry and get emotional, and he's not trying to go there. So that makes sense why he would divert to a different conversation. In addition to that, that seems reasonable that he was shocked that Charlie had died and all this other stuff, because Donald Trump is not a scripted individual that's reading a teleprompter to tell him what he should say and how he should feel. Donald Trump is having a real human emotion. And for Jimmy the dummy to get out here and say something is so disrespectful, and that's what he get. That's what you get, you sorry son of a gun. And I hope all you raggedy, terrible news hosts, journalists, fake comedians, I hope all of you guys reap what you sow. You're sowing hatred and dysfunction and literally the worst things that you can say about Donald Trump. And now look at who's winning, look at who's losing.
Okay, he hopes they all reap what they sow. He said, Jimmy, I hope you reap what you sow. Okay, he was happy that the Jimmy, it's not been canceled, or officially it hasn't been, but it's off air indefinitely, which means I guess they have a criteria and they're going to see. There's no guarantee that show is ever going to come back on air. Is no guarantee. So we don't know that. And Tatum, he was happy to hear it. I'm like, okay, but I remember how Tatum was when it came to cancel culture not long ago. Tatum, you were an advocate against cancel culture. Don't you think what happened, even if you feel like Jimmy Kimmel deserved it, whether you feel he deserved it, whether you feel the joke was appropriate or inappropriate, whatever the case may be, however you take the joke, maybe you felt it was undeserved, but you didn't like the joke, whatever it is this not what you all were considering cancel culture before this? Okay, when the shoe was on the other foot, y'all were calling this cancel culture. Look at this.
Go to the Communist News Network. Decided that I'm gonna go to the Communist News Network and see what they were talking about and see if they had any clarity of why this young lady, beautiful.
Now, that woman, forgot her name. Don't really matter what her name is, but she was on this show called, this is a Star Wars show called The Mandalorian. She was on the first season. I think she made an appearance or two on the second season. And then she was fired for certain comments. She's also been in some movies. She never really made it big in Hollywood. I to be honest, I remember her biggest film being, she was in the first Deadpool movie. She was one of the villains in the first Deadpool movie. And then she was in The Mandalorian. And then after that, she had made some comments and then pretty much got blackballed from Hollywood. And this is what Tatum had to say about the situation. Okay.
For young lady.
Somebody said the Crimson Chin. Y'all too much. Y'all too much. Somebody said the Crimson Chin. Why'd you say that?
Was suspended or canceled from her acting role. Now, the article states that she was a Star Wars person. Obviously, she was acting in Star Wars with an offensive social media post, including one that compared Nazi Germany to the current political landscape. It says Gina is not currently employed. Now let's go down. I want to go down to what she said. So it says here, and I think you guys can read it. One of Carano's posts, which she appeared to repost from another account, so she didn't even originally put this, referred to the Holocaust, during which an estimated 6 million Jewish people were taken down, and how the conditions then were similar to contemporary political division. How is this any different from hating someone for their political views? Now, you ask me, I don't even have to know who she is to know that I think there is a comparison here. Not one-to-one, but there is a comparison of how did it get to that point in Nazi Germany? How did it get to that point? And I think that we are headed to that point here if we don't do something about it. Because if you look at it, there was brainwashing that was going on. There was charismatic leadership. There was people who voted for somebody that was not worthy. And there was a lot of misinformation put out. They were tricked into doing stuff, and they were deemed illegitimate people, and all of the propaganda that's similar, not the same people, but similar to how they're demonizing conservatives because you supported a presidential candidate that's not kosher to what these people want. Now you are deemed insurrectionists or something crazy, and now they can ban you from everything, and they can treat you poorly and say that you should be, I won't say another word, that you should be taken out of society and never to be taken seriously, canceled, even if you suggest anything they don't believe.
Well, hold on. No. What happened to Tatum? Whoa, where's the energy of reaping what you sow? Hold on. Is she not reaping what she sows? Hold on. No. Oh, you get canceled for even suggesting anything? Now, this is Brandon Tatum, and he's avid fighting against cancel culture. Cancel culture when it's somebody who's of his thought pattern, when it's someone of his ilk and of his kin, not his kin really, but when it's somebody in his circle or his political party, his political aisle, whatever the case may be, then it's cancel culture. Now this is what happened with Nazi Germany. If you really think about it, this is one of the steps to Nazi Germany. All of this canceling and silencing and all of this stuff and this censorship. This is terrible. This is what's destroying the country. Oh, that was so all of this ripping what you sow. Oh, it is. So you didn't really believe in that like that then, huh?
How is that not leading to the degradation or the view of degradation of a group of people in this country? How is the censorship in the council culture not very similar to a group of people painting another group of people as inferior, hateful, and harmful, giving credence to damaging them physically, demoralizing them mentally? How is it not similar?
Well, if that's the case, then all of you, whether it's Jimmy Kimmel, whether it's him losing his live TV show, whether it's J.D. Vance saying that people should be fired, all of you guys, based off of what you're saying right now, based off of what he is saying right now, all of them are acting similar to Nazi Germany. Based off of what Tatum is saying right now, that if there's a similarity to people saying things that are I guess, unfavorable in society. They're being demonized. They're being criticized. They're being vilified in the media. They're losing opportunities. They're losing jobs. They're losing school programs and things like that. If based off of that standard, because we're just keeping the same standard, if based off of that standard is similar to Nazi Germany and should not be tolerated at all, that's the exact same thing that you all are doing right now. That's the same thing that Tatum is now celebrating, talking about he hopes they all reap what they sow. That's what J.D. Vance was talking about with, hey, what we need to do is we need to defund or remove funding or not fund institutions if the professor says something that we don't like. Is that not on the lines of Nazi Germany, according to the standard that we had right here, the standard and the precedent that you just set right there? Is that not that? Is that not the same thing? And see, this is the difference between how we were before and how we are now. Okay, as foundational Black Americans, we're so much smarter, so much quicker, so much faster now. We catch everything, okay? The second he said that, I'm all like, you know what? That's interesting, because I remember his stance on it was something I couldn't even remember who the woman was. I couldn't even remember her name, but I remember his. I'm like, no, I remember you saying something about cancel culture being like Nazi Germany. I remember him saying that. I said, you know what? I'm gonna instantly go find that. I instantly went and found that exact clip I was looking for, because I remember that. We got long memories like we elephants. I'm an elephant. I'm trying to tell y'all. My brain is like an elephant. I remember him saying that. So I said, okay, so all we got to do is expose it. And I want us to understand, with the power of exposing things, this brings about justice. This brings about the solution, and it brings about justice by exposing the evil, exposing the hypocrisy. Right now, all of them, they're losing their minds because their hypocrisy is being exposed left and right. They were talking about public executions. Okay, well, now Charlie was a public execution. Okay, well, not Charlie. They were talking about, well, you know what? You got to take the guns away from the Black people. Okay, well, it's the white people you need to be worried about. Okay, well, not them. All of this stuff, we're exposing this, exposing that. Foundational Black Americans, I'm trying to tell y'all, we not what y'all thought we were. We not what y'all thought. Y'all not used to this. We're exposing that, and this is how we bring about justice. Something else, as I was getting the clip, I don't know how I saw this, but I'm gonna show y'all this. And I'm gonna ask y'all what y'all think. I don't even want to say anything. Let me just be quiet. I'm just going to ask y'all what y'all think. I'm not going to say anything. Y'all don't know what I think about it. Y'all don't know. I'm going to show it to you guys, and I want you guys to let me know what y'all think.
This video is brought to you by Tatum Store. Check it out. Brand new shirt. Trump has great genes. That somebody's like, Brandon, wherever you wear a man on your shirt, y'all know why we wearing it. Show some support if you like it, if you think it's funny, if it's something you want to troll with, or if you just think it's a great design. Our guys did an incredible job. It's brought to you by Tatum Store.
Okay. Am I tripping? When I said, okay. It looked like I ain't tripping. It looks like I'm not tripping. Okay. Because when I first looked, I said, what? And he's literally wearing the shirt. It's not like it's just a troll, or it's actually he's not going to sell the shirt. He actually is wearing the shirt, and it talks about the quality of the shirt. Okay. Trump has great genes. Okay. And he got a picture of Trump kind of laid up, you know, with his jean jacket open, and he don't got no shirt on. Okay. All right. Wow. I just want to know what y'all thought about the situation. It ain't really okay. All right, man. Oh, okay, dude. Trump has great. All right. That's much. That's much. We don't. Okay. He out there sexualizing Donald Trump. Okay, all right. All right, okay. Tatum. A lot of them on that alt-right stuff, a lot of the males on that alt-right stuff, they tend to, have extra little tastes. They have little appetites that they don't like to express to the public. I'm not spreading any rumors or anything like that. I'm just saying that the likelihood that he might have an appetite for a certain type of thing, is kind of high considering that. I didn't know what to say. I said, wow. I said, you try to explain this way. Notice how he laughs too when he puts it out.
This video is brought to you by Tatum Store. Brought to you by Tatum Store. Check it out. Brand new shirt. Trump has great genes.
Trump has great genes. Oh, okay. All right, man. And then somebody in the chat room probably gave him a side eye. Then he started to explain.
That somebody's like, Brandon, it's weird when you wear a man on your shirt. Y'all know why we wearing it.
No. Why are you explaining your shirt, dude? The fact that you got to give a whole explanation. Now, you know why do we wear it? It's weird. Now, y'all saying it's weird, but it ain't weird because you know it's a joke. Okay. All right, dude. He said, Trump has great genes. All right, now I do. Okay. All right, man. Live your life, I guess. I just wanted to know what the community thought about it. Okay, and y'all see it the way I saw it. I saw it as kind of off. Not judging, just saw it as, off and telling. Okay. Flint Water again says these people have nothing to turn to except violence, and now they're trying to blame us. Oh yeah, they're trying to blame us. Now, what's interesting about violence and protecting police and stuff like that, we're going to get into that in a little bit. They don't really care about that either, and that is being exposed as well too. All of this stuff is good. All right. Lasco, he says, bow to Jesus and repent your sin. Hey, I'm gonna be honest, brother. This needs some repent. You need to repent.
Great genes.
Whoever designed this and the fact that he wearing it, he need to repent for this. I don't know what this got to be a sin. This got to be a sin. I don't know, man. I don't know. Hey, man. I don't know that. That's got to be a sin or something. This man is gay. Hey. You said it, not me. All right. Okay. And then he says, your Mia says that guy Brandon is pandering to the white community. He is, and he always does. That's where he gets his brother from. That's where he gets his money from. He might get something else from that community too, but I'm not saying he does. But I'm just saying that nobody made him wear the shirt. He wanted to wear it. That's all I'm saying. That's the only. I'm not saying that wearing the shirt makes you anything. I'm just saying he clearly wanted to wear that shirt. Now, take it how you want to take it. Okay. Whatever that means to you. It's very interesting. Speaking of hypocrisy, and the people who complain about violence and all of this stuff, they don't really care that much about violence for the most part. Not like that. Have you guys seen or heard about this story? What just happened right here? I have to do some adjustments. StreamYard, y'all got to stop that. Y'all heard about this story? Let me pull this up for you.
Tonight, a tribute to the heroes who came under attack in York County. 3 officers were killed, 2 others injured while serving a warrant at a farm.
This is an absolutely tragic and devastating day for York County and for the entire Commonwealth.
The suspect dead. Federal officials on the scene and aiding in the investigation. Wednesday night, and the big story in Action News is the latest in that deadly mass shooting against law enforcement officers in York County. This all happening in North Codorus Township, not far from the Maryland border and about 2 hours from Philadelphia. Action News' Walter Perez has been following the story and is live near the scene where the violence unfolded. Walter.
And Rick, you can see behind me still.
Now, all of these people be out there talking about there's a war on police and take the cuffs off the cops. Take the cuffs off cops. Everybody's talking about that. There's a war on police and there's take the cuffs off cops and all of that stuff. No, dude. Where's the war on police now? It's a thin blue line and police got a dangerous job. Now, Tatum, weren't you a cop? I'm surprised that you aren't on the front page on this. I thought you was going to be on this like white on rice. I thought you'd be on this like jeans on Trump. Now I'm gonna start using that when it comes to Tatum. Now I'm gonna start being all like, I thought Tatum, you like jeans on Trump. I'm gonna start using that. It's gonna be a thing. I'm gonna make it a thing because he's made it a thing. I'm just gonna expand it. Okay. I thought he would have been on that like that, but for somebody who's been a cop and these cops were killed, and you don't see the alt-right and the people who claim to love the police so much say anything about this. Very interesting.
A very active crime scene even at this hour, but the whole thing unfolded at about 2 o'clock this afternoon in this beautiful rural section of York County, Pennsylvania, and we were able to meet up with a neighbor who witnessed the horrific scene. Action News was there as the police procession left the crime scene on its way to the York County Coroner's Office. Just a few hours earlier, we spoke with Dave Miller, who was walking nearby when he heard the hail of gunfire earlier this afternoon.
I turned around to come back here to get something else, and I heard the gunshots. And I did see one body hit the ground. I've never heard anything like it. It was all at once, but it did last quite a while.
In the end, Pennsylvania State Police Colonel Chris Paris says 5 law enforcement officers from York County were shot, 3 were killed.
2 that were transported here to Wellspan in York. They are currently listed in critical but stable condition.
The officers were serving a warrant at this farm in the town of North Codorus. We were told it was linked to some kind of domestic dispute, but no further details have been released. But we were told that the gunman was shot and killed by police. While the investigation is ongoing, investigators say there's no lingering threat to the public. A short time after speaking with the families of the officers killed and injured, Governor Shapiro had this to say.
This kind of violence isn't okay. We need to do better as a society. We need to help the people who think that picking up a gun, picking up a weapon is the answer.
Now, neither the names of the officers involved nor the name of the gunman have been released at this time. Also, Governor Shapiro has ordered U.S. and Commonwealth flags across the state flown at half staff in honor of the officers killed. Reporting live from North Codorus Township, York County, Walter Perez, Channel 6. Action.
All right. Now, as a society, you mean a white society, because we weren't there. We weren't there, and we're not going to take the blame for that. That has nothing to do with us. No. That ain't got nothing to do with us. Y'all told us that we need to have a whole community conversation over this situation right here, and we need to have a conversation over duty and our duty to civilized society and our duty to the innocent and our duty to prevent crimes like this from occurring. So where's y'all conversation about duty? That's what I want to know. Steven Crowder. I want to know where Steven Crowder is when it comes to his conversation about duty to the innocent and duty to the civilized. Where's that about? Where's that at? When do y'all have that? Huh? Because we got to have it as the black community. We have to have that. So where's that? Okay. Most cops killed are killed by white people. So y'all know. Because they want to talk about war on cops. So if you want to talk about war on cops, I want to talk about, let's talk about that. Let's talk about y'all duty to society. They don't want to talk about that. And you know what's very interesting is all of this is unraveling at the same time. And they're losing the narrative. The alt-right, MAGA, whatever you want to call them, conservatives, all of that stuff. They're losing the narrative because y'all can't come out there and talk about our violence. And then it's violent incident after violent incident after violent incident, massive violent incidents. The day Charlie Kirk was shot was also a day a school shooting occurred. On the same day, the perpetrator who did that was also, and we all know, a member of the dominant society. We all know the person who did that was also a member of the dominant society. So all of these things are happening again and again and again and again and again. And foundational Black Americans, we just sitting back looking cool. We are like, hey. It seems like everybody is starting to reap what they sow around us. We're just looking over here. They're reaping what they're sowing over here. We're looking over here, reaping what they sow. Everybody is reaping what they sow. Everybody. And that's good. And I like it that way. I love it that way. This is good because when the truth is exposed and open and unapologetic and raw, then that's how justice gets pushed and produced. Now we can start to see real progress and real justice because a lot of the lies about 13% of the population, 50% of the crime, and you guys are committing all these crimes, even incidents, whether true or untrue, real or unreal, even those aren't making it. Now, imagine if this happened 10 years ago, we would still be talking about it. But even now, nowadays, these can't even last a week. Incidents like that doesn't even last a week. Because y'all community is so chaotic right now, and the infighting among your own community is so chaotic and is being highlighted, and all we doing is pointing at y'all and saying, look, Stephen, don't y'all want to have a community conversation about your duty to civilized society, Stephen? Because y'all were saying we need to have that. So where's y'all's about? All right, we're not hanging our head low anymore. We're not doing that no more. And now, because of that, we control the narrative. Now they're trying to do the whole silencing thing. Now they're trying to do the whole thing that they were preaching that we were doing. Now they're trying to silence us, which is why they mass reported my live stream I did on Wednesday, last Wednesday. They mass reported that. Got the video taken down under the guise of bullying and harassing. Okay? Now, I told you guys what we're going to do, and I told you guys that we're not going to put that video back up. I told you guys that. Okay? That's just what it is. Now, I will be putting up a new video. I will be putting up a new video. Now, this new video might have said some things that you've heard before, possibly, maybe some additional things that you haven't heard before, okay? But this new video is very important for the community to get behind, okay? Because we're trying to show the dominant society, and more importantly, ourselves. Most importantly, ourselves, that we are the ones who control the narrative now. They don't control the narrative. We don't care what they think. We're exposing them for the frauds that they are. So in order for us to control the narrative and to show that no matter what attempt y'all use to silence and censor us, we still have a firm grip on the narrative. And it's not going anywhere. It won't go away. It won't. So we all understand the assignment. We do. We got it. They don't have it. Now, the situation with Jimmy Kimmel, that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate. But I will say it is a good thing that it exposes their hypocrisy. I'm glad that it does that. It exposes their fragility. I'm glad that it does that. I'm glad that the situation with even Charlie Kirk exposes the fragility. It is unfortunate. I am so sad. Y'all know how heartbroken I was. I was so heartbroken about what happened to Charlie. I was. And I am still today. But I'm just going to say that at the end of the day, it did expose some things. It did expose a lot. And we still pushing forward. We still keeping on. Hey, we still got reparations to get. We still got reparations to get. And with MAGA losing the narrative, with the DNC losing the narrative, we are the only people left on the table. Okay? It's a thinning of the herd. I want you to understand right now, this is a very special time for us right now. And right now, it's a thinning of the herd. And only people who've really been chosen are staying on the table, standing up. Right now, everything's being shaken. And everybody's falling off one by one, except us. We're the only people who are standing firm, 10 toes down, unshaken. We're the only ones. And that's the way it's always supposed to. It's the way it's supposed to be. It's the way it's supposed to be. The thinning of the herd was going to happen naturally. It does. It's a natural occurrence. And right now, foundational Black Americans are going through a natural occurrence. And in the pursuit of our natural occurrence, there will come reparations. Okay? Because every time they shake the table, everybody else falls but us. Every time the table shakes, every time a disaster happens, everybody else panics but us. Everybody else loses their minds but us. We're the only people, no matter how hot it is, we still find a way to be cool. No matter how cool it is, we still find a way to be warm. We are the survivors of this world, and we will bring the world into a better world. That's what we will do. And that's exactly what we'll do. Now, family, I think we had a pretty good one. We had a very informative live stream this evening. So this is pretty good. Pretty good. I think we did pretty good. And that will conclude tonight's live stream. I appreciate everybody. Appreciate y'all super chats before y'all leave. What I would greatly appreciate is if y'all hit that like button. All right, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. All right, make sure you do all of those things. Double check, because some people have reported that there's been some incidents of I'm liking and then I come back and it's not liked. So, and I'm not saying YouTube is doing it. I don't know what's happening, but some people are saying that they'll like it, come back, and it will be unliked. So just double check, okay? Some people are even saying that when it comes to subscribing, okay? So double check. Now, and before we leave, today, everybody, on the 18th, today is my mother's birthday, okay? Today is my mother's birthday. So I would appreciate everybody if we could give a big, before we go, if we could give a big, warm, happy birthday to my mother. Okay, she likes purple stuff. So if y'all could just put purple stuff in the chat room, purple hearts or flowers or whatever emoji you guys have or whatever the case is. So let's give a happy birthday shout out to my mother. Okay, it's her birthday. All right. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you, family, for doing all of that. Now, with that being said, I hope you all have a good rest of y'all night. Happy birthday, Mom. Appreciate you. I hope that you all have a good rest of y'all night. Y'all stay safe. We got the power of the narrative. Thank you all, my brothers and sisters. Y'all stay blessed.